Yo, what is up guys? Today I am coming back at you with another deck profile, this time on Fluffals, and Fluffals is a deck that I have loved for a long time. Ever since this deck came out in Next Challengers, I have really just enjoyed its playstyle. It's a very go second deck. It really focuses on like doing a lot of damage and putting out big monsters with boosting effects, which is really cool. The first monster in the deck is, of course, the best monster in the deck is 3 Fluffal Dog. This card, whenever you summon it from your hand, so that's normal or special summon, allows you to search your deck for a Fluffal or Edge Imp Sabers and add it to your hand. Now, this card is obviously very good. It's just your play starter. It gets you going. Now, the next card we play is 3 Fluffal Bear, and Fluffal Bear is he's kind of weird. His effect isn't great, but his effect is you can discard him to set Toy Vendor from your deck, and he's not great. But Toy Vendor is important for another card that is really good. Toy Vendor needs to be on the field for that card to resolve, so we play 3 of him because we want Toy Vendor on the field. Now, Fluffal Wings, definitely the second best card in the deck. This card allows you to just play the game really. Like, this is your main advantage engine. Its effect is when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it and another Fluffal monster if you have Toy Vendor on the field. Destroy the Toy Vendor and draw a card, and then if you do destroy the Toy Vendor, you draw another card. So how this normally pans out is you discard Bear, and then you get this engraved somehow. Toy Vendor can actually get this engraved for you, but normally you just want to fuse with it. So you somehow get it engraved, and then you banish this and this to draw 2 cards and then send Toy Vendor to the grave. And as you'll see later, Toy Vendor actually has a graveyard effect, which will then trigger. So in that moment, it will be a +3 from your Toy Vendor. Now, we are playing 2 Fluffal Penguin. This card is very good, but we don't want to really... This is not a good starter card. You don't really want to draw this going first. You want to extend into it. So its effect is when you use it for a fusion summon, you can draw 2 cards and then discard 1, which is really nice. It allows you to just cycle dead cards. There are a lot of cards that are once per turn in this deck, and you don't want to draw them more than once, so it's nice to be able to just draw 2 and discard one of those once per turn cards with Penguin. So Edge Imp Chain is, unfortunately, this is Edge Imp Chain. He's unfortunately not searchable. The only one that is searchable is this guy, and the only reason we play him is because he's searchable. Sucks. This guy, when he's sent from the hand to the grave, you search for a Fright First spell or trap. Now, that's super important because the Fright First spells are really good. The Fright First traps are actually really bad. We don't play any. But the spells, definitely a main factor in how this deck plays. We play 1 Edge Imp Sabers because sometimes you just need to search this card, and also it's important in making one of the fusions that you actually do make a lot. So he's basically Garnet in this deck. You don't really want to draw him. His effect is if he's in graveyard, he's like Plague Predator Zombie. You can top deck a card from your hand and then summon him. Super neg, like he's not good. We play 1 Owl. This card, when you normal summon it, it can search for any it can search for polymerization from your deck, and then as an alternate to that, if he's on the field, you can pay 500 life points to conduct a fusion summon without polymerization. The way this deck fuses is with polymerization. It doesn't have its own fusion spell, really. It does, but it's not. It's more of an extender rather than a starter card. This card can also help you play around Anti-Spell Fragrance and Jury Beast. by using its pay 500 effect, it will just allow you to fuse, and then pretty much all the Fright monsters can out cards on the field, so you don't really have to worry about like outing the Fury Beast. Like, that will happen. It will happen. We play 3 King of the Swamp. So this card, when you discard it, it searches polymerization, and then when it's in the graveyard, it becomes any name for a fusion summon. So that's actually important. We'll get to that later. So this is a little bit controversial, but I play 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. This card is amazing. I will probably play it in every deck ever. This card is just so nuts. You just, like, every card that's like, every effect that's like nuts in this game just probably allows you to access the deck, because that's like the biggest place where most of your cards are most of the time. So accessing that is not something you want your opponent to do, so having this card in your hand is definitely something I want. I definitely want access to this card at all times, especially I've been trying to go second every time. You need interruption. Now, if you don't have money for this card, play Drone Lockbird. Kaijus, I guess, could fit the role. It doesn't really do the same thing at all, but Kaijus are generally just good in this deck. Like, it allows you to out the negation monsters, and then running over monsters for you is no big deal. So giving them a big monster that does nothing is better than having a big monster that negates all your cards. Toy Vendor. Now this card, as we mentioned earlier, is set from the deck by Bear. It has a bad effect where you can discard a card and then reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a Fluffal, you can special summon it. Now that's that's pretty lucky. They kind of like they kind of make it fun by like letting you put a card on top of your deck with this, and then discarding a card, and then since you set it up with this, you reveal the Fluffal, and then you special summon it and like send your place that way. But then never, and I mean never, is gonna come up. Like you have to really go out of your way to make that work. This card is mostly here because its other effect is when it's sent from anywhere to the graveyard, anywhere to the graveyard, it will search for a Fluffal or an Edge Imp Sabers. Again, we're limited to only searching for this, and it sucks. So yeah, this card is great because it searches for Fluffal Dog, which is, as I was telling you earlier, is the main engine starter. So we are playing 3 Polymerization. If you don't know what this does, I don't know what to say to you. I don't know why you're watching this video if you don't know what this does. We play 1 Fright for Factory. This card is great. It says banish any fusion spell or trap. So then that includes Polymerization. Any card with fusion in its name or polymerization from your graveyard, and then conduct a fusion summon is basically all we're using it for. It's also searchable off Edge Imp Chain. As I was saying before, that searches all your Fright for spells, and this is one of the good ones. We play 2 Foolish Burial Goods. So this card allows you to send Toy Vendor from your deck to the grave, and since Toy Vendor gets its effect when it's sent from anywhere, you get to search. So this card is actually just Rhoda for this deck. Unfortunately, it's once per turn, so we only play 2. Otherwise, we definitely play 3. You don't want to draw 2, though. Twin Twister, you're trying to go second. Back row decks are a pain to deal with. Like, man, just D-Barrier especially is really hard for this deck to deal with. I will tell you that much. Dimensional Barrier. Strike, not so much. I can show you a way later that you can kind of play around that card, but Dimensional Barrier especially. Okay, we're going to play 2 Instant Fusions. So this card has 2 targets in our extra deck. One of them is, well, actually, I'll just go over those later. We'll talk about those when we get there, but this card is really good. It allows you to, this is a starter card, as well as bait for a negate. Like if you need to bait a negate card, this is the card you want to draw. Good for going second for sure. Also good going first, so that's fair. Fusion Recovery, I believe it's called. Yes, this card is a good extender. It allows you to add back a polymerization in your graveyard, and then also a monster that was used as a fusion material. So super important. Great to draw mid to late combo. This card, Fright for Fusion, another one of the broken Fright for spells and traps, and we're going to creep this guy back into the picture because this guy has a bunch to do with how this is good. So, since this guy can copy any name in the graveyard, it's really good with this card. This card is, if you know what Miracle Fusion does, you should know what Miracle Fusion does. I don't know what you're doing if you don't, but Miracle Fusion, let's say Miracle Fusion for heroes is Fright for Fusion for Fluffals. So, there you go. And then we play, of course, 3 of the best card from Flames of Destruction, in my opinion. Red Reboot. This card is so nice. Just being able to, like, say, no, you don't get to play with traps. You don't get to do that. It's, this card is undeniably, like, just one of the greatest additions to the card pool that we have gotten. It just allows aggressive decks to thrive, and it also puts a little bit of a nerf on the like set 5 activate card of demise blah 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 bullshit. You know, I hate that. No, I don't like card of demise. We play 2, so getting onto the extra deck, we play 2 Fright for Tiger. This card is infamous for how it interacts with your opponent. So this card, when you fusion summon it, you get to destroy cards on the field up to the number of cards fused into it. So that includes so that's basically on activation of this card's summon, that's at least 2. And the reason we play this guy right here, one of the reasons, is because he's the edge imp that is specific for this card. So you need to have this card in order to make this card. But also, if you have King of the Swamp can be this card. Keep that in mind. Alright, so this card is just insane, especially with Red Reboot. Like, you summon it, and then blow up their whole back row, or their board, or, you know, etc., etc. Card's nuts. Fright for Kraken is probably the one you'll be going into the most. This card is generic, so it takes any Edge Imp monster, not specific, which is really nice, because Edge Imp Sabers is not good, which means this card is sometimes not summonable. But this card takes any Edge Imp monster and one or more... Oh, it's just one Fluffal monster. And what it does is it can attack twice per turn, and then once per turn you can send a card on the field to the graveyard, but if you do, it cannot attack that turn. Now, this deck can play around that a little bit. We'll get into that in a sec. And here we are. The heart and soul of the extra deck really is Fright for Sabretooth. He says when he's fusion summoned, you can summon back any fusion monster from your graveyard, and his fusion materials are any Fright for Fusion monster and any Fluffal or Edge Imp. So if you have this guy out in your extra monster zone, you can fuse him and any monster to summon this, and then this will immediately bring this back. So that's kind of like the main combo that comes up with this deck, especially with those two. And something to note is if you use this guy's effect to send a card on the field to the graveyard so he can't attack, and then you bring him back with this, obviously that effect, that condition is no longer applied to him, so he can attack that turn. we are playing one Frightful Wolf. This card can attack as many times as you use fusion materials for it. So this card is kind of like a Hail Mary. Like you use the Miracle Fusion to fuse a bazillion cards into it, and then it can just attack a bazillion times. And oh, silly me, I forgot to mention. So this card and this card both boost the attack of Fright for monsters on the field. This guy boosts them all by 400, and this boosts by 300 for every Fright for monster on the field. So if you have this guy and this guy, that's 600 for both of them. And if you have this guy, this guy, and this guy, that's 400 plus 900 to this. So that's 33 attacking as many times as you used a fusion material for it, which I don't know how many you used, but it could be a lot. This card's great. Fright for Sheep. It never dies, as a general note, but when it's destroyed by a card effect, it summons itself back from the grave, which is really nice. And also, when it attacks, your opponent can't respond to its attack, which is also really nice. Also, this card is a target for instant fusion, which means that if you instant fusion into it, and then fuse it away for this, and then bring it back with this, you will have this, and then this will not die at the end phase because it was summoned back from this, even though it was summoned by instant fusion originally. It's kind of weird, but it works. Play this. It's an instant fusion target if you need it, but honestly, most of the time you're just making sheep. Deco Talker, if you need a Link monster, he's your man. Link Karibo, you can use the 1000 Eyes Restrict to make this, and that's pretty good. Because then it opens up your extra monster zone again, so it's not clogged by 1000 Eyes. We play one Titanic Galaxy. This card is it's alright. You can most of the time, if this deck just has its way, it will just kill them. But if you ever end up not killing them and leaving these two on board, you can overlay them both for this, and then just have a spell negate during your next turn, which is really nice. Abyss Dweller, if you're ever forced to go first against, like, I don't know, True Draco or something, or Mermail actually is a huge threat now that they have 3 Dragoons, and Light of Sekka came out, or Sekka's Light, I believe it's called in the TCG, but yeah, that deck is really good again, and if it makes you go first, which, honestly, people should be making this deck go first, because it has a hard time just building a board, but some people don't know that, so they'll let you go second, and that's just great. But anyway, that was the deck. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.